Recording is on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bat Community Call for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. We've got some special guests today and excited to bring them on from the Zcash and ECC community. Before we jump in on that, we'll do kind of run through our normal community team updates and then kind of lead in on that. But I hope you all are having a great week. A lot going on. I don't know, Jenny, if you're here and you want to kick off with the team. We're also streaming live on X. Thank you, Battern, for that as well. And so hopefully get a good set of group of folks listening on X as well. I'll hand it over to, I think, Jenny or whoever's driving the deck this week. But much welcome to the Zcash folks who are here. Love to see it. Jenny, are you here? Or we can have her join. She's probably joining right now. All right.
Yeah, I think she's getting in.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Love it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
All right.
How you doing, Jenny? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. Hope
Excellent.
everyone else is good too. Hope everybody who celebrates Easter and had an extended weekend had a nice long one. And for everyone else, hope your week is off to a great start. Okay, let's kick off today. I know that we have some guests in the house, so we're going to run through our community updates quickly, and then we're going to hand it back to Luke to intro the guests. So let's kick off. Okay. Actually, we are going to start our updates with Drew this week because I believe he has to hop off a little early. So, Drew, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, wow. You put me front and center to start. No, that's cool.
That's what you asked.
I just have to be first, but no, it's all good. Appreciate it. It's my son's 16th birthday, so I'll be hopping off to grill some burgers and whatnot. But I'll be listening. I won't actually hop off. But anyways, yeah. So we had Easter this week, and so happy Easter to everybody that celebrates that. And thanks to the Dave and Dragon Dave. So the Daves again for running events this past week. Trivia in the Discord and the Jackbox games with Dragon Dave. So appreciate them and everything they do every week, or most weeks anyways. And as you can see here, the cave continues to grow. It's slowed down. It continues to grow with 212,000 and a half or so, give or take, back in the back. So it's kind of
Am I bugging out or is Drew bugging out?
No, I think
parked in the back caves, earning.
Replay there, Drew. We
Now?
didn't catch the last 20 seconds or so.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yep.
Okay. Just saying, yeah, incremental growth in the back caves. So sorry about that. I am on the road, hands-free, of course. But then, and then we've got our next round of rewards partner programs that are in the works and should be announced pretty soon. So that's been driving a lot of the work lately, just really getting partners for that and getting them ready and prepped for the next round to be announced shortly. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Drew, and happy birthday to your son. Sweet 16. Wow, that's big. Okay, so moving on. Very exciting. Oh, hang on. What am I looking at? Somebody else sharing their screen? Or is my screen not loading?
Am I sharing a screen?
I'm not sure. Okay, I just pinned my screen. So yeah, we are coming up on just about 1 year of X Spaces events co-produced with Unfungible, which is super exciting for us. At the end of April, it'll be exactly 1 year. So on the next community call, we will give a big stats update about how our work with Unfungible over the past year has really helped boost BAT's exposure and relevancy in Web3 circles, and how we've been able to get the brand in front of way more people than we would have been able to historically with our Spaces events. So stay tuned for that next week. But for this week, I just want to cover some of the upcoming panel discussions that we have. So this Friday, April 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we have our AI agents and crypto rewards, the end of big tech's reign. And joining us on the panel will be Cluster Protocol, Degen Distillery, and Flagship FYI. And then next Friday, May 2nd, can't believe it's already going to be May. Crazy. I had to really hold back from quoting NSYNC just there. But anyway, okay, we have Building Meaningful Connections at IRL events, and our guest panelists for that space are still TBD, but you know where to find us. If you want to join, you can join the panel, but if you want to join the audience as well, just head over to BatX every Friday, 1 p.m. ET. That's when we put on our shows. And recent events that we did include the balance of fun gamification and addiction. That was last Friday, and then, 2 Fridays ago. And then April 4th, we had the new age of digital advertising with Spin Top, Gouge, and Q42. You can go find recordings for past spaces on our X account. Yes, Battern.
I was going to say, excuse me, whoever's sharing their screen, I think it's M, could you stop it, please?
Yeah, Em, I think you're sharing your screen.
Good luck with the finding a job, though. I don't know if we've got any admins in there who can stop it.
I'm trying to figure out the way to do it without disabling or kicking them out. But Em, I'm gonna boot you. You can rejoin. All right, then you won't be sharing your screen anymore.
Okay. Shall we continue?
Yep.
All right, so just want to cover some other work in progress. Like Drew mentioned earlier, we are getting ready to publish the update, the follow-on to the Brave Rewards 3.0 partner program announcement that we made last month. We have finalized our April cohort of partners. So we'll be launching with another 5 or 6 partners. The blog is due out next Tuesday, April 29th, exactly a week from today. So stay tuned for that on the Brave blog. The blog will also include, in addition to highlighting the new partners in the program, we'll also have a rewards product update. Christopher will cover any rewards offer wall expansions or upgrades. We'll also include some key updates from our March cohort, the first group of partners. And then, of course, we will include a CTA for Web3 brands who are interested in joining the program. We also have a block survey form where brands can apply, and I'll share that in the chat here after I'm done. But for anyone who may be interested in sharing that with a project that they know, if you go to the Rewards Partner Program blog on the Brave blog now, at the bottom of that post, there is the application form for Web3 brands who may want to join the program. So you can feel free to share that around. So we'll have a lot more to share on this week, but like Drew mentioned, there's been a lot of work going into this behind the scenes, not much more than what I just shared that we can share right now, but all will be revealed soon. All right, moving on to Battern. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Yeah, we had a very relaxing long Easter weekend, which was great. Need to get that energy up. We're very organized on the back end now with Notion. We've got a bunch of stuff fixed up there to make it so that stuff doesn't get lost and, just makes everything go smoother, quicker, more organized. Moonbeamer has helped organize a space on this Thursday, which will be on the next slide. And yeah, chasing down more partners and keeping the current ones happy. And next slide, please. So yeah, we've got a big space coming up Thursday, 24th at 2 p.m. EST. We've got me, Drew, Top Flight Football, Karate Combat, Hashman, Carlpo17, Impart Hadara, WC Org, Uplayer 2, UBA Hedera, and X Raptor, which should be quite exciting. That Sportsify is a big thing going on. There's a Karate Combat. I think they've basically just turned themselves into like a DEX or something, or outsourced it so anyone can use the technology for their own thing, like they're doing with the betting. But yeah, that's me. Cheers, everyone.
Okay, Godson, you're up.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yeah, we had a nice long weekend, so we're still getting up. But over the last week, when we had that call last week, I believe it was Lukash who brought up the issue of liquidity again, and I figured it was time to maybe do a community-led solution. So I figured I'm going to go ahead and set up a pool on Solana for us. I know we're still trying to push the adoption, but as it gets underway, I figured this is something that will probably happen regardless. So I went ahead and set up a pool for us on Meteor. So if anybody wants to be part of the community and deposit some LP to help us gain some liquidity there, that'd be nice. And I put that picture up there of my wallet trying to swap $500, and it was having a high impact on the price. And I was like, yeah, that won't do. So just that was my update for the week. I'm just trying to urge everybody to help us out with this initiative. But yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Is that pool on Radium or something?
Yes, this is on Meteora, which Radium uses both Meteora and Orca. So you can pretty much anywhere you are now on the Solana ecosystem, you can swap through. And this is literally the only BAT Sol pool on Meteora, which we already have one for USDC. Shout out to whoever did that. But the highway on Solana always goes through Solana. So all the pools are they're all Sol pairs, more than USDC pairs. So I figured this is a good place for us to start.
Awesome.
Yeah, in the last hour, I've made $4. So it's something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everyone.
Hey, Guillermo.
Don't bring much in terms of quantity, but I do bring in quality. So for Echo, we are bringing some updates. We are releasing some more drops next week, 1 week from today, and we're aiming to highlight the projects that we are featuring on the BAT offer wall. So we're starting with Karate Comet. So we'll have a feature on a common, which will just highlight Karate Comet as a partner. This will be the collectible. It will promote the next fight that is happening on the 2nd of May, KC54, and we'll also highlight a stream that Scott will be doing from our BAT Ambassadors program. Next slide, please. Another drop will be a rare, which will be a VIP. So this drop will actually be able to be token gated into a private channel on our Discord, which will allow you to enter a merch giveaway that we will be hosting there. It will be able for us to show some NFT utility and boost some ambassador engagement and invite anyone else who is a part of Echo but not our Discord server to come over and participate in the merch giveaway. And the last one, it will be an ultimate, which has a question mark, not because I don't know what it will be, but because it has not been finished yet. But it will be next week, and this we are already having a giveaway, which I'll link on the chat here. And these will allow you to win IRL tickets for the event in Dubai. So if you are anywhere near Dubai and you want to attend, we have 2 tickets to give out. And those will be token gated also to our drop on Echo, which will be a 1 out of 1 ultimate drop on Drip. That is it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that for anyone interested in winning those 2 tickets to the Karate Combat KC, is it 54, 45?
Oh my
The
God,
next event. in Dubai coming up May 2nd. We are raffling off those 2 event tickets. And we have the raffle open on the BatX account right now. There's a little call to action there, a couple little things you have to do, but nothing too crazy to enter the giveaway. And also Guillermo, love what you're doing with the Echo NFTs. And I think this next set really, it's a cool way to sort of like integrate some utility for those NFTs while also growing our community. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it allows us to have a little bit more drops and activity on our Echo channel on Drip. It's something that we're not struggling with, but priorly not having as much activity on, since we're mostly just doing the magazine drops. And these will allow us not only to have more activity, but at the same time highlight the projects that are being featured on the offer wall. So after I know that I want to do Guano, and I have a really cool idea with them, I want to see if it's possible to do like an NFT game where the actual NFT will be a playable game, which is something to stay on the lookout for. That's it from my end. Thank you. Get him away. Ooh.
Thank you so much. Okay, Paula, over to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everyone. Hope you had a lovely Easter if you celebrated it. So for the Back Community Call summaries, last week I published number 47, also translated in Spanish. And now I'm currently working on number 48. So that will be published very soon. And also the Japanese team has been working very, very hard on the summaries as well. And last week we published number 37, thanks to Atsushi-san and Natch. Like I mentioned last week, they wanted to make a few adjustments to the summaries, so it's easier for the Japanese community to translate and also to to basically understand it. But the format is still the same. They already provided a few more that I also need to publish this week. And we'll make a post next about that, so you can take a look once it's published. It's the same link for the entire page in Notion, but stay tuned for the post. And last week, thank you. So last week I announced our community partnership at Talentland in Jalisco, Mexico, thanks to the BAT Mexico team, which are Donatello, Cariño, and Eric. So the event started yesterday, and it's a 4-day event. So we've been in touch about everything and just making sure that they have everything they need. And they're going to do, they're doing different activities and collaborating with other projects there. I believe they are going to collaborate with Polkadot. So we'll have photos and videos very, very soon that we'll be posting. Next slide, please. Thank you. And we continue our work with the Spanish localization through the BAT Latam account. So I translated this poll from the BAT account. I think it's very, very important to me to know and also understand what our community and users think, depending on the region. So I really enjoyed the localization that we've been doing, and we'll continue doing more, of course. Thank you. And next slide, please.
Thank you, Paula. Hang on. There you go.
Thank you so much. And now for the highlights of the week, I wanted to share these posts from Abdul, Akdas, and Domi. We really appreciate your support, and we love to see our users spreading the word about Brave and BAT. So shout out to them. Thank you so much. And I think that's all from us today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the updates and overview. Yeah, like I mentioned before, we have a special guest this week, Josh Weart from the ECC and Zcash. Welcome to the community call. I know there's a bunch of Zcash folks here too. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Good. This is a pretty cool call.
Yeah.
How often do you do this?
Every week, every Tuesday at this exact link at this exact time. Almost every week.
Nice.
I think like 2022-ish or around there, 2021, I think, actually.
Wow.
The first one I did was 3.5 hours long. It was like a standing press conference with all this FUD, and we just answered every question, and then it became kind of a thing.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I think we've only ever missed major holidays.
Yeah, I
But-
think around New Year's or something.
Yeah,
we
we've been
we
really consistent otherwise.
took the break, but yeah, I mean, Josh, I know, like, we had you on the podcast, and you know, obviously, like, Brave's privacy browser and community and everything in Zcash is all about privacy. But for some folks here from the crypto side might not be as familiar with Zcash or up to speed on things. Maybe you want to give folks a kind of a rundown, like your role and kind of what's new and happening with Zcash, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So my current role, I'm the CEO of the Electric Coin Company and the executive director of Bootstrap, which is the organization that owns ECC. The organization that owns ECC is a 501c3. I've been in the role since late December 2023, but was at ECC full-time since early 2018, and then kind of a community member prior to that, just prior to launch. So I've been around the project for a while. And ECC, we invented and rolled out Zcash through the organization that gave it life and brought it to the world. And since then, the ecosystem's grown quite a bit. And there's a Zcash Foundation. There's another organization called Shielded Labs that's doing core protocol work. Kedit that's working on something called Zcash Shielded Assets. And then we have community members around the world in different groups as well. So I think, yeah, Zcash Intern posted, there's community calls on Fridays through Discord, where some community members kind of get together, and it's pretty kind of low key conversations about whatever. But yeah, that's who I am, what we do. I give it so I don't bore everybody with Zcash's history, but if you already know it, so we like to say Zcash is unstoppable private money, and in order to have unstoppable private money, privacy is key to that. You can't have financial dealings, financial payments, and that kind of thing in infrastructure without having privacy. And there's a recognition by Satoshi very early on. He thought that pseudo anonymity would be good enough, and that people wouldn't be able necessarily to kind of trace people's transactions and trace it back to identities. But we know that that's not true. So now companies that are making a lot of money by doing that, and we have the advent of things like AI, which will allow for even greater kind of traceability and kind of heuristic analysis and that kind of thing. And so what the Zcash team did, based upon some science that came out of Johns Hopkins and MIT and UC Cal Berkeley and some other places, brought zero knowledge cryptography to life. So that's something that had been discovered in the 1980s at MIT, but never put into code. And they figured out how to add it to Bitcoin. And so they went to Bitcoin Core, and Bitcoin Core said, yeah, it's great. It's very novel cryptography, so it's too risky. But why don't you try it on another chain first, and maybe we'll look at adopting it or adding it to Bitcoin at some later date. So the team got together. Zuko Wilcox was a founder of the Electric Coin Company, brought together some really world class. There are probably 24 people in the world that understood zero knowledge at that point, and forked the Bitcoin code and added zero knowledge cryptography so that we could have shielded transactions. So your data doesn't get posted to the chain. What gets posted is a zero knowledge proof. So it's a proof that something happened, and so it can't be traced or anything like that. And you're able to store your Zcash privately and send it around privately.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know we Carlos is on the call today too, and I know that Carlos and James from our side work with you guys on getting Zcash. I think first the transparent integration in, and then I know recently we launched the on desktop. I think we added in shielded Zcash too, and so super excited to kind of have both of our teams working together here. You've got this whole private your internet life, and everything kind of in it in Brave, and then the financial side of that's like so important, especially around if everybody's kind of speed running to do all these things on chain. But like, if you're not protecting yourself, like you kind of have this really horrible combination of like, okay, these companies know what I'm doing when I'm browsing, and now they're knowing more and more of what I'm doing through these on-chain transactions. So we're super excited to have like shielded Zcash transactions land. And what's going on that's new kind of in the Zcash ecosystem? I think I saw some stuff with near intents and some different kind of ways that other networks can start to integrate with Zcash. Maybe you can shed some light on what's going on that front and let folks know like how they can what's new, I guess, over there.
Yeah, Luke, there's so much new.
I know.
There's been so much activity, which is really great, because I think the narrative's shifting. In that, for a long time, people got kind of locked in this mindset of, like, we've already lost privacy, and if I don't have anything to hide, why should I care? And I think people are waking up to the realization that they do care, and that that is, it's everything from a security risk to not wanting to be spied upon by, marketers and targeted that way to, different people have kind of different reasons and different threat models. So one of the groups you mentioned, Near. So the team over at Near, and it's really across the board. We've had some great conversations with the leaders there and what they're trying to do with Near Intents. And really creating agentic kind of opportunities for being able to use cryptocurrencies, and have really embraced the idea of using Zcash within their intents. So the first thing they launched was a DEX where you could swap. In this case, you're swapping from a transparent Zcash to another token, or another token to a transparent one, and then you can shield it. You can shield it back into the like the Zashi wallet, which is ECC's wallet. But that this was kind of the first one. There's this record, the Zcash has historically, it's kind of lived on its own L1, and there's a whole history as to why, in terms of being on its own little island. But more and more, folks are wanting to bring Zcash cross chain, and it becomes really important. So a lot of exchanges, like there's a lot of places around the world where you can't get Zcash at all. So South Korea has a ban, for example, on trading or acquiring ZEC, because they're afraid, like, if we're not able to trace it, then they're afraid of losing control. And so with exchanges have to play a little bit of kind of triage, just depending on their jurisdiction, and what they're dealing with regulators, and what they're kind of willing to deal with compliance. Fortunately, we have some great partners here in the US with Coinbase and Gemini and so on. But that's not the case everywhere. So getting these DEXs on board, really super important. Hopefully there'll be more opportunities within the Near ecosystem. We're talking to some other folks that are building capabilities on that to be able to like agentically use Zcash for other DeFi related things cross chain. Maya, which is a cousin of Thorchain, is also adding support for Zcash, so that should be out pretty sooner than later. And hopefully we get kind of all these things hooked into wallets. Underneath, there's some real magic happening with the cryptography to be able to support scalability to reach billions of users, and to be able to handle that kind of transaction volume. So, like most of if you're dealing with blockchain, stuff could be very slow. And since we were a fork of Bitcoin, there's some restrictions in terms of scale today on a proof of work chain, and how many transactions you can fit into a block, and so on. There's been a series of cryptographic discoveries that have come out of ECC and now the community. One was just getting zero knowledge to work. The next big one was getting it performant, so to be able to create a zero knowledge proof on a mobile device. It took a while to be able to do that. And now one of a former ECC cryptographer, now working independently doing research on scalability, may have solved the scalability problem. it uses zero knowledge. It uses something that is built into Zcash inherently, which is zero knowledge cryptography, as well as recursive zero knowledge proofs, to allow potentially for thousands of transactions to be packed into a single block. And so, and that could that could be done, in the next year and a half or so, which is pretty amazing. So he's got some stuff published out on his blog on X, Sean Bow. It can be pretty dense if you're not familiar with the tech, but it's really game changing for, I don't think, not just Zcash and private payments, but I think crypto much more broadly. So that's pretty cool. The community organization called KEDA is working on something called Zcash Shielded Assets, which would allow you to take your BAT or your Bitcoin or whatever and shield it on the Zcash network. And so that capability should be unlocked in the protocol
That's awesome.
later this year, early next year. Another group, Shielded Labs, is working on a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake to allow for folks to be able to stake their ZEC and participate in governance activities and things like that. That we had this amazing announcement with Brave, which is a long time coming, as you mentioned, with shielded ZEC in the Brave browser, and I know that's coming to mobile, and there's a lot more still to be done there to make that user experience just amazing, and to be able to use shielded ZEC, across the web, and so it's just like seamlessly, part of your browser experience. You go to a site and you want to make a purchase, and you're able to use your Brave wallet and have shielded ZEC there again, where nobody can see your balance and make a purchase and engage with everything that's going on across Web3. So those are a few. There's awesome. Like a long laundry list, but it's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening now, like really all at the same time.
Well, it's great too, because I mean, like, as far as like bona fides and just, having really solid privacy tech, Zcash has been out in the forefront on that for a very long time. And so it's really cool to hear more about how, interoperable and how like, other networks are starting to connect in, because really like, and that's one of the things that's exciting about having shielded Zcash, and Zcash is in the Brave wallet too, just the ability to like have that channel for private transactions, because as we're moving more and more to a cashless society, having that level of privacy is like super key from where we're coming from, and it's really cool to see, and it's really been great. Like I just on my own have been posting a lot about it. The Zcash community is like really awesome. Like every time I post something, get a really, really solid response, and that's a really cool thing to see. That kind of momentum around it, because you guys are building tools, we're building tools, all this, like people have to kind of take it on themselves to protect their privacy these days. And as we're seeing from Europe and elsewhere, like, you can have really good privacy regulation, but that doesn't really mean a ton if it's not getting enforced, like against the companies that are kind of violating a lot of privacy. So a huge kudos to you guys for what you're doing, and really appreciate that you guys we're all working together and kind of keeping the ball moving forward on this stuff, because it's really cool. And also, like, from where we're coming from, and one of the reasons why I'm glad you guys are here too is like, I know our community is always looking to get more involved with other communities too. So I think you mentioned there's community calls on Fridays in your Discord too. So like, we're looking for ways that we can have our communities get together and kind of do more, because we all kind of share the shared appreciation for privacy too. So that's awesome. Awesome to see you, Josh. And I can open it up too for folks. If anybody has a question, feel free to, or wants to say something, raise a hand too for Josh or Zcash team or anybody, on the call. Feel free.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, what you guys are doing is amazing as well, right? So you talk about building the tooling. I mean, it has, the user experience just has to be as good or better than what you can get with non-privacy options. And so, that's really been a kind of a new focus of ours now that we kind of have some of this kind of base core stack sorted out, is to really improve that user experience. And you guys have been leading the way and showing that it can be done. I mean, how many, you got 85 million monthly active users or something like that?
Yeah, just about 85 million. Of 85 million monthly actives. I think we've got line of sight to 100 million before the end of the year. And so, yeah, I mean, this doesn't happen, without people moving with their feet. That's one of the things I love too about both of these projects is that this started at times when people were really challenging whether or not people actually cared about their privacy. But every transaction you see on Zcash or everybody you see moving to Brave is kind of like proving out that people really do care. If they have an option that they can move with their feet too. So it's pretty great. I know, Lukash, you think you had a question too. Feel free to chime in. Lukash, go ahead. Lukash, you think you're muted? I think you're muted. Or maybe we'll head up Nuki. I think you had a hand up too. If you want to jump in, and then we can hit Lukash after. Oh, accident. Okay, got it. Hello. All right. What about Black Hat Hacker USA? Yeah. Black Hat Hacker USA, you have the question? All right. Well, in that case, anybody else have questions? Lukash, how's it going, man? You got to unmute if you want to ask a question.
Second. Oh,
there you go.
Works, right?
There we go.
Because a few people raised a hand, as I wasn't sure if I was on or not. But anyway, good to see you again. Okay. And it's fantastic to see people from Zcash today. So I wasn't planning to jump in, but since they're in, I have something to tell them because maybe there's an opportunity for them to I mean, it's too big opportunity for them to miss. It's great to have them together, right, with us. And obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware of Skynet, Certic.com website. Because if you don't, you should actually go there and see what your project look like for the general audience. So I would advise people from Zcash to go on Certic, check on their profile and update whatever is necessary to update, see if everything's perfect on the website. Because people who are coming new, like people who are new to crypto, they go to these websites and they check whether it's the project itself it's worthwhile looking into. So it's advisable to check these websites and see if everything's top notch. So I'll put a link if you don't know about Certic website. I'll put it on a chat here, a link to that website. So check on your profile and see if everything's perfect. You can even encourage your community members to vote on your project to make it look better for the general audience. I even because I like Zcash, so I even did that just a moment ago. I just voted for you and left a nice comment.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll check out the site.
Yeah, you definitely should, because like I said, the general audience, people who are coming to crypto, they check on this website and see if the project is actually properly sound, if it's worthwhile to look into. So you have to keep your profile top notch, otherwise people will be like, suspicious. Something's not right here. So that's one thing. There is also another thing I'd like to ask Luke about it. Since we are talking about web integration, like Web3 and what do you call it? Wallet integration, native integrations. Yes, because today I must say I'm a really good mood. I noticed something and. It's like it happened 2 months ago and nobody noticed anything. It's like people like, I don't know, just trying to ignore the fact or just trying to keep it silent for some reason, but it's a very good news. And I noticed that I just trying to ask Luke about it, because 2 months ago, there was a referendum number 1412 on Polkadot Brave Wallet native integration. And at first it looked like it's gonna fail, but somehow they actually went in favor. Like 78% voted in favor, and they actually paid. So the question to look is, what's actually happened to this? When can we expect some update on this native integration?
I see.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we actually we put in an OpenGov proposal, which is their DAO over there, and it followed on. We had done almost a year or 8 months or something prior, one around marketing, their ecosystem to Brave, and basically we passed it through there, and then we followed up with the integration one, and it passed through there. So the team's working on integrating that too. So I think there might be some stuff on GitHub, but around that, so people can stay tuned about that. And I think when it lands, we'll announce it more formally.
That's me for now.
Yeah, no problem.
See you next time.
Cool. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to chime in. And I guess, Josh, what are some of the challenges you guys are facing around kind of adoption? And is there any ways that we can, from our side of things, help on that front?
Where are we seeing issues around adoption
or challenges, right? Like I know, sometimes, like you mentioned, getting support in certain countries, or it can be kind of tricky. Like, is there anything that our community could do to help, get the word out, or help with support, or get more involved, or something like that?
I mean, awareness is always a big thing. Also, I think there are people that got introduced to Zcash like way back in the day when it first launched. There was a lot of buzz and a lot of press came out, but the tools were just not performant, right? So to create a shielded transaction, you had to have a laptop that was fairly beefy and create a transaction using command line, and people just couldn't do it, right? And so it's radically changed. So like I mentioned before, there's a number of wallets that are out there that now support shielded Zcash, in addition to the Brave wallet. The ECC one that we just released this last year is called Zashi. So really, we've been really fighting hard to build a world-class user experience for shielded Zcash. So if you haven't played with Zashi, go to the App Store or Android, you download it. Let us know what you think. We're actually going to release Zashi 2.0, which will have it will even be a better user experience. I think it's pretty good right now, but that will come out in about a week or so. And so check that out. Let us know. We're looking at some other kinds of tools to allow for out of band payments. So you could send payments via messaging apps and things like that, and stuff we want to play with. So a big thing is really just awareness and getting people using these wallets. A lot of people, whether it's Bitcoin or it's anything else, right? They buy tokens on centralized exchanges and then they let them sit there. And which is kind of a lot of us have been doing this for a while, right? Part of the goal is self-custody, and to be able to manage our funds on our own, versus recreating the traditional financial system. So playing with the Brave wallet in the browser, playing with Zashi and those kinds of things, and getting other people onboarded to those tools, I think is great. Because the reality is most of the legacy tools with Zcash are still using the old Bitcoin style transparent addresses. There's two types of addresses with Zcash: the transparent one, which is just like Bitcoin, basically UTXO based, completely transparent, and then they're shielded. And getting people to use the shielded stuff is really important.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think too, like I've been seeing people like posting about buying different things through Zashi and stuff like that, which is super cool. And I think there's some ways that we can help with adoption. One of those things too we learned really early on is like as kind of this open source company and we're taking user feedback, there's some things that users are very vocal about, when a certain feature, bookmarks are not there or something isn't designed the way they like. But one thing that we learned after bringing the wallet to market was just that, like, when it comes to like transactional things around funds and stuff like that, like people were a lot less vocal about that. And then one of the pieces we actually learned too, after having a lot of like anecdotal conversations with people, is they would like look at our wallet and say like, cool, this is kind of like my private browsing mode wallet, and I've got another wallet I do most of my stuff on, which was new stuff to us because we kind of were looking at it more like a browser metric versus something, a use case like that. So it's neat to hear like the feedback, but I think like getting people testing and stuff like you mentioned is pretty key too, because one of the things that early feedback's like we totally rely on user feedback. I mean, because we're not tracking the users, right? So like we're either seeing aggregate things or we're not hearing anything. So that's a great pointer about getting that extra help on that front. I think Godson, you had a question too, so why don't you go ahead next?
Yeah, thank you. This might be a little like old of a question, but it's something that's been on my mind. Like when Zcash first launched, there was this whole like thing about the trusted setup, and honestly, I never really like understood the resolve for that. So we usually have questions, but I guess we're all a little shy today. So I figured.
No, that's a great question. It's actually something that was just kind of recently solved. So if you're not familiar with zero knowledge cryptography, to get it working interactively is one thing. And interactively means like I'm going back and forth with you and proving that I know something without disclosing information. And the way that I do that requires this kind of a lot of interaction between the two of us for me to finally convince you, because I've answered a question correctly enough times that you're like, okay, yeah, he probably does have the information and is able to prove it consistently. But when you put it on a blockchain, it has to be decentralized, right? So it's non-interactive. You can't interact it with everybody. And in order to solve that problem, there was something called a trusted setup. And with that trusted setup, which a lot of protocols still now use because they use this kind of older version of Zcash technology. If you're not familiar, there's a lot of chains, Tezos and others. Ethereum's been experimenting with this. They're using sapling, and sapling protocol within Zcash requires the use of this trusted setup where multiple parties come together. They create part of this massive string, and if any one actor is honest, then it works. But each generates only or has visibility to a piece of it, but the aggregate of it still has to be used, and that's this thing that we've called toxic waste. And so the toxic waste has to be when it gets created, it has to be destroyed, and it has to be proven it's destroyed. And some people didn't like that very much, right? So you don't want to have any kind of trust involved in the whole thing. It doesn't matter how many people were involved and how trustless or what the trust assumptions are. And so solving that riddle has been kind of at the forefront of cryptographic science for some time, trying to figure out how to do that. So Sean Bowe, who I mentioned before, who has kind of solved the scalability issue, also solved that issue in something called Halo 2. And so with Halo 2, that introduced something called it introduced not recursive proofs, but it did away with trusted setup. So the newest Zcash protocol, Orchard, this latest shielded protocol, doesn't have trusted setup. Now, trusted setup, by the way, to keep in mind when you're creating this, like if somebody had the toxic waste, they would not be able to de-encrypt anything. It's not a privacy issue, it's a counterfeiting issue. So if they managed to get their hands on toxic waste, or if all of the participants were compromised, in theory, they could print Zcash without anybody seeing. There's some controls in the protocol that I won't go into that limit the potential impact of that. So issuance can never exceed 21 million, but that was a huge problem to solve. It was a pretty cool day when Sean solved it. He actually rang me up and Zuko and one other person and asked us if we could get how fast we could get to Boulder, Colorado, and showed up at this co-working space in Boulder, Colorado, and he was like, what's that, a brilliant mind or whatever that is, where like he gets up on the whiteboard and he starts scribbling all of this stuff that I have no idea what I'm looking at. All this, and I'm like, Sean, what are you talking about? He's like, I solved it. Which is pretty amazing. Also considering that Sean Bowe, who is a genius, is a high school dropout, self-taught cryptographer, and solved something that all these brilliant scientists at MIT and Stanford and all these places have been trying to solve for many years. So it was pretty great to get that resolved and get the Orchard kind of implemented in the Zcash protocol.
That's awesome. That's great. Good question too, Godson. I think Cripple Resistance, you have a hand up. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Always good to hear from you.
You too. So do you think that Zcash or privacy coins will be affected by CBDCs? And do you think CBDCs will try to squeeze you out?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So I remember having this conversation at ECC like some years ago, and somebody was talking about another privacy coin and talking about that as a competitor, as like actually the competitor CBDCs, because that has the greatest chance for kind of mass adoption out of the gate. And CBDCs today are completely transparent. Now there's work that's being done to add privacy to CBDCs, but there's rules based upon the jurisdiction. But like in the US, for example, what Circle does is you have to do a couple things. You have to have the ability to freeze funds of a user, and you have to be able to kind of KYC somebody in. So know your customer, get their identification and things like that to issue and redeem. And so, that is kind of runs against a lot of the things that we believe in the Zcash community. And so it just hasn't been, it's something where they can add a level of privacy, but effectively there's still kind of a backdoor. So you have a centralized issuing entity that has certain visibility and controls on that CBDC. Now and I've been pretty open about this. Like I had a conversation with the prior administration and prior White House, and they had asked for that kind of access. And without getting into the details, very explicit about what they wanted. And essentially they want that kind of control where they have, visibility into transaction information and certain controls over transactions for people using these coins. So as CBDCs being highly regulated, more and more regulated, you'll have some level of privacy, I suspect, over time, but not complete privacy from either kind of centralized entities or from governments. There is some work that's being done. Some people are looking at issuing a stable coin on top of Zcash using this Zcash shielded assets, but it will require some of those similar controls, not at the protocol level, but if you choose to kind of mint a private stable on top of Zcash, then you would have to comply with certain things for that particular token. So we'll see where that goes and what people do with it, or what an issuer might do with it. But really insightful question, and the short answer is yes.
So do you think they would try to shut you down?
That's another great question. So you can't shut Zcash down, right? It's a decentralized open source protocol. It's out. it's out in the world. It's not going to get shut down. The risk is that they can come after, developers, and like we've seen that with Roman Storm, for example, with Tornado Cash, who's still sitting in prison, or is still at risk of being in prison for a long time. And so in the US, though, writing code is considered free speech. It still is considered free speech until the laws change. And so we can continue to write code and publish code under current laws without that threat. But this is kind of always moving. There's no guarantee that the courts will overturn that and say, oh, now we're talking about code that's being used to transfer money. We're going to create different rules. But today, I feel like the risk is very low, but it is it's non-zero risk for sure.
That's great. Great question. I think Jenny, you got a hand up too.
Yep, I do. I have a question for Josh. This is sort of switching gears and going back to the question that Luke asked earlier about user feedback. So like Luke mentioned, Brave actively invites or encourages lots of user feedback, and we rely heavily on it to inform various product decisions. And it sounds like you all do too. For Zcash, what are some of the best pathways for users to send feedback upstream for your various tools, whether legacy tools or the upgraded components or anything like that? I think I saw in the chat that ZCub does community calls like this one, so that's great. But where else should people go to leave their feedback?
Yeah, we have, it's great to leave, we monitor the social channels very actively. So like with the Zashi wallet, for example, I mean, we don't collect PII. And so we rely on that kind of feedback that's being posted out to social channels. So whether it's X, X is a big one. People can post on Blue Sky, but we track those pretty closely. There's a Zcash forum. On the Zcash forum, it tends to be people that are maybe a little bit more involved. I know there's a lot of lurkers in there too, but it gets kind of really deep into these long threaded rabbit holes around all kinds of different things. Dan is posting some stuff, Decentralized Dan in the chat, some other places. And then there's mechanisms like in the wallet itself where people can send a note to support, and we watch those. So we have similar challenges I imagine that you do, in that it's all voluntary in terms of the kind of information that we're able to get, but it's super helpful, and we do all watch all that very closely and try to respond as much as we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great. No, and the other thing too, that I just want to highlight that I really appreciate about Zcash is the approach of just kind of privacy for everyone first, right? And that's one we take at Brave too. And I think one of the things that's been interesting to see is that there are different pieces of technology coming out that apply privacy in different ways, where you might have, there's an example like privacy pools or some examples where, people can be selective but you really have to have that default privacy if you really want privacy from the outset. So, it's one of the reasons why I'm really stoked that you guys are able to come on today and that we've got you in the browser too, because we need to really make sure there's good default privacy out there for people, for everybody, if we want global networks. And again, I know we're right on up at the edge of the hour. So, Josh and Zcash crew, really appreciate you all making yourselves available and coming to the chat today and doing all the work that you're doing. And I'm really stoked that we're able to have you guys in Brave. And thanks so much for joining the call today.
Luke, you guys are amazing. I mean, what an amazing project and community, and I'm so thankful for you all, and we're all allies in this, and so it's fantastic to be able to do this together. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, and for everybody here, we'll be back 1 week from today, same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, see you all online. Have a good one, and take it easy.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for your time, Josh.
Cheers, everyone.
See ya.
Bye, you guys.
See you guys.
Stay tuned, baby.